Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to BookCast episode 10. Yes, we finally made it to episode 10. And
Woo!
I'm here with Miss Dana Abercrombie, who you just heard. How you doing, Dana?
I am doing wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah, we've been away for probably like a couple months now, but there was a lot going on with me. I actually went to New York. I actually met Dana, and
Yay.
we did some book shopping and stuff there as well, which was cool. We'll talk about that a little bit. But yeah, we're finally back, and hopefully, we'll be back on a regular schedule now. And I am reading quite a lot now too. So, and I'm sure Dana is, well, she's always reading a lot. So yeah, there's always going to be lots to talk about from here on. And in general, we're drawing closer to autumn, winter, and that's usually when I read the most. So um, yeah, there'll be a lot to talk about. But before we get into what we have been reading, there was a topic that we wanted to discuss. So Dana knows a lot more about this than me, but apparently, some authors have been finding their work on free ebook sites where people can go and download or read their books for free, without paying anything. And they've been campaigning against sites like that and trying to get them shut down and trying to get their work removed from there and all sorts of things. But there's also another side to the argument. But Dana, please highlight what you know about the situation before we get into the intricacies of it.
Yes, so from what I've been gathering on Twitter, a lot of authors have basically come together and is starting to get a lot of their works removed off of random websites. We're not talking about like, the big websites that are actually out there that provide free reading material, such as, for example, Amazon or Barnes and Nobles. These are like random little websites that are just run and they end up collecting a lot of different books, thousands and thousands of books sometimes. And these are a lot not from the old, authors of like Huckleberry Finn, but recent stuff. So, like, for example, just throwing it out there, like The Hate You Give or Harry Potter, some of the more very popular and newer titles. And a lot of the authors are very upset and they're saying, you're basically, this is their livelihood. And by going on these websites and having this available to the public for free, they're not being paid. And it's basically taking food out of their mouths. It's they go out there, they work hard, they put their work out there, and, for hopes of you buying it, or even you going to the library and get their work. And those who don't know, the library has a certain budget, and they pay for those books. So at the end of the day, even if it's just a library, authors are getting paid. But these websites that are free, that anyone can go on, they're losing money. And so they've come together to get a lot of those websites shut down. However, the people, the public, is very upset because their argument is you should be grateful that we're reading your stuff. We can't afford your books. Some books that, they sell for as much as $25 or $30. So $30 may not be much to someone, but out there, $30, that's dinner for a week. That's payment on something that they need. That could be a co-payment. So they're saying that, be grateful that we even want to read your book, and also understand that we like your work, but we can't afford it. And even though that there are libraries, believe it or not, you would be very surprised that a lot of towns don't have well-funded libraries. Some don't even have any libraries. I'm grateful enough to live in New York City. There's a library for me every 10 blocks. I know Gary, he has libraries in London. I'm going to assume that all they do is just read in London. It's like the birth of Harry Potter over there in England, UK. But that was the argument. So they're saying that we can't get your book otherwise. There are a lot of people who are stranded in these really small towns in these countries that just don't have the funds. So it's just been a very brewing debate, and a lot of people, a lot of authors have come together, and a lot of readers have come together, and it's like this big argument on both sides of the platform.
Yeah. So yeah, they're like, to me, there's two different sides of this argument. And it's like I can understand where the authors are coming from, because a lot of these are like, big name, and they build their business around selling books. Now, if because the fact of the matter is, like, authors don't exactly make a lot of money. Like, you'll be surprised. Like, authors, unless they're publishing like 100 books or something, or they're Stephen King, big brand name, like,
Or just
you're not making like a ton of money, like, on an annual basis. Like, so a lot of people do writing and authoring as like their second thing, their second income. Um, so, like, with that being said, I can understand them being upset that money's been taken away from them if that's what they're kind of depending upon. And I understand that completely, because you put so much time and effort into creating your work, and then people are just like giving it away for free. Like, that it can sting a little bit. But on the flip side of that, if you're not a big brand name, having your work bootlegged or put out for free can do wonders for you, like your brand, because people will be more aware of you, and then that can translate, because people, word of mouth, people will talk about your work, and then other people might buy it. It might lead to additional people buying your work that may have never known about it if it wasn't bootlegged. So this used to happen in hip hop all the time. Like 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying, his first album, it was bootlegged everywhere before it even came out. But then once it did come out, it, like, everybody was playing it so much that everybody went out and bought it, because they heard all the music from it and they liked it, and they were like, you know what, I'm gonna go buy that album now that it's out. So, it could have a positive effect to have your work bootlegged, and stuff. And yeah, like, I think, I don't know, it's a gray area, because technically it's not right, because when you do write a book and you publish it, you or your publisher or your agent, whoever's involved, like, you own that copyright to the book. So if somebody is out there selling it or giving it away for free, you do have the right to try and stop them. Like, you have those rights. um so I can completely understand if you feel you need to take action. But at the same time, like you said, there's a completely underserved set of readers out there in the world who don't get to read all the stuff they want, because books are becoming expensive, especially physical books. They are becoming really expensive, and that's why a lot of people are turning to ebooks, because it's slightly cheaper. And then, if you can get free ebooks, like, I see a lot of, like, because I'm in a lot of like book groups that Dana invited me to and stuff, and I'm on,
yeah.
like, I go to book forums and all types of stuff, and I always see links to places with free ebooks, and get free ebooks here and stuff like that. People are always going to click those links if they're able to get these books for free. And that's just the reality of the situation, when you're dealing with the internet, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But there are readers out there who aren't being served, and they don't get to read what they want to read. And like you said, libraries are great. If you're in a big city like New York or London, cool, you can probably go to the library and you can find what you want to read and stuff for the most part. But if you are in a smaller town, or a smaller state, or wherever it is, then you might not be able to find a good selection of what you want. So yeah, it's tricky, really. I think what the authors could do is do more promotions on their books, to where they do a lot of giveaways, or maybe even partner with another company, to where the company buys a bunch of their books and just gives it away to people and stuff like that. If there can be a model like that set up, then that could help a lot. I know Goodreads has been doing some giveaway stuff recently to where authors can just give away their work. They can do promotions and stuff like that. So I think more of that needs to go on like especially for the big author brands and stuff. Like they should give away more free books because they can afford to, you know. So I don't know. What do you think?
Absolutely, I agree. It's a really gray area. It's really hard. I understand both point of views, but at the end of the day, it is illegal. You're breaking a lot of copywriting rules, and it's basically, you got to follow law. So I agree with you. How about teaming up with the publishers and offering some type of deal? That also really works. So, and also remember, there's like plenty of websites where you can buy a book, an ebook for like $1.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, me myself, I never bootleg books. Like I I always support, you know, the industry because I am trying to write books myself. So I am pro industry when it comes to books and writing. I understand the work that goes into it, and I'm always gonna, you know, I buy Kindle books and physical books. So yeah, I'm always going to support the industry, but at the same time, I can understand those people who probably don't have enough money to buy books, but they want to read, and reading is important. Like, I think everyone should read. So, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely a great area.
definitely.
But yeah, beyond that, I wanted to also talk about our experience in New York. So I have to thank Dana for showing me around New York. You know, she showed me a lot of stuff. I was very excited. I was an excited tourist. I even got bombarded by, you know,
Yeah,
some some people who were trying to finesse tourists and stuff. Uh,
man, it was glorious.
Let's tell the story for the listeners. So we were coming out the subway. I think it was like 42nd Street or something like that. I don't know. I don't know which stop it was.
It
Um,
was full in
it
Times
was
Square.
Times Square, yeah. So we were coming out the subway, and there was like the street version of Disney characters, I guess, like Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, and stuff. Like they had the costumes, and they were basically there to take pictures with people for tips. So we came out the subway, and I don't know what it was. Like I don't know if I was wearing a sign that said tourist or something, but they just completely rushed me. Like they bombarded me, and they were like hugging me and stuff, like trying to get me to take a picture with them or something like that. And Dana was just like trying to pull me away. Like it was hilarious.
I had to. It was weird. We literally walked right outside. I went to go point at the Harry Potter play that was right across the street to show him, and all of a sudden we were just swarmed. And it wasn't like one or two. It was like all of the Disney characters came at once, and they just suddenly attacked Gary, and it was like touching him and pulling him away from me, and I had to like snatch his hand and was like, "No, come back!" And they was like, "No, we have him now," and they like dragged him down the street, and I'm doing like this weird tug of war thing, and I finally got Gary, broke free, and it was like a battle. It was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced.
By the way, this whole time I was laughing, like I was amused by the whole thing.
He
Like,
was enjoying the whole thing. He was like, "Yes, take me."
but
But
yeah,
yeah, it was a mess. But like they sensed he was a tourist and like just attacked him.
yeah, I don't know.
Eesh.
They must have heard my accent or something. I don't know what it was, but yeah.
I don't even know because I don't even remember you speaking. It's like they smelled you. Like, ooh, he doesn't smell like America.
That's hilarious. But yeah, over the course of a few days, we went to a lot of bookshops. Like, I remember we went to I think it was the Barnes and Nobles at Columbia University, the first day I met you. Um,
Yep.
and we went to some indie bookshops as well. And we went another day. We went to my favorite, which was the Strand. Um,
Yeah.
And yeah, that was an amazing place. We also went to a Barnes and Nobles in the same kind of area. What is that, like downtown or something?
That's
Downtown.
the location.
Say it again.
The Fifth Avenue location.
Fifth Avenue. Okay.
Yep. And also Midtown Comics.
Yeah, we went to Midtown Comics. I also discovered Forbidden Planet in New York as well, which is somewhere that I go to in London. They have one in New York, and we walked right past it, and I was like, "Yo, we gotta go in here." So yeah, I went to.
Like a kid, like, oh my god! Start taking off and running. Like I didn't even know what was going on. Like I needed a leash on him because I completely lost him.
Yeah, but yeah, we went to some cool places, man. And but I have to say, the Strand is definitely my favorite. I liked how it was laid out. Like just all those different like aisles and stuff like that, and it's like a maze of books basically, like, and it's stacked from the ceiling to the floor, full of books and stuff. And it's a book lover's heaven basically. Like you're just surrounded by books. They're above you, they're below you, like they're just everywhere, and they have multiple floors. I remember we went to the top floor, which was like rare books and stuff. We saw some rare erotica and like just some really rare like stuff for like that cost like thousands of dollars and stuff, like first editions and classics and stuff like that.
I had to pull him over to the erotica section. He kept running to it.
Nah, it
My
wasn't
people.
it wasn't like that. You're exaggerating. But yeah, yeah, it was pretty incredible. That shop. I didn't actually buy anything. I was just so overwhelmed by all the books, and like for me, it was more about the experience of like just checking out these different bookstores in New York and stuff. Barnes and Nobles, I have to say, like Strand was great, but the only thing is, like, yeah, it was stacked top to bottom with books, but it's like they show you that like they have the spines of the book, like the shelves and everything. It's like you see the spine of the book first, the way it's laid out. But at the Barnes and Nobles we went to in Manhattan downtown, um,
Oh yeah, that
they were front facing, and I prefer it front facing because I like to see the whole cover of the book. So that's one thing I'll say, is I liked Barnes and Nobles for that because everything was front facing. You see the full cover, and because covers really stand out to me, like that's how I because a lot of times I'll go to a bookstore and like I won't even be looking for something, but a cover will just like strike my fancy, and then I'll pick it up, and I'll sometimes I'll even buy it. So covers are a big deal for me, and I like that you can actually see all the covers to the books and stuff like that. So, but that probably takes up more space, but doing it that way, but yeah, because I'm sure Strand can fit more books by just showing you the spine, like the way it's laid out and stuff. But yeah, that was one thing I like about Barnes and Nobles. And we also went to the restaurant there, and we had a cheesecake. I had a blueberry cheesecake, which was really nice.
and like he lost his mind. He was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
He like melted to the chair. He's like, "This is so good. Oh my god!"
it was incredible. Oh, and something really happened, like really crazy happened too. So while we was in Barnes and Nobles looking around, the elevator caught fire just randomly out of nowhere, and
Into flames.
yeah, and they had to evacuate us. So yeah,
They threw
like
everyone. But the people was like, "No, I'm making purchases." So they was still online as the elevator was just burning.
yeah,
It was like, "I'm buying my books. You cannot stop me." And so they didn't stop them. The elevator's just in the back, just burning.
as a tourist, like it's really funny to me because it's like, okay, does this happen on the regular, or like does the elevator just catch fire? Just
Bursting. And also correction, that was the one on Union Square, not Fifth Avenue.
Union Square. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was like I think 14th Street. So yeah, that was fun.
yeah, and yeah, then we went to Midtown Comics and we met another friend, Anthony Frazier, there.
And that was cool. You know, I discovered a lot of different comics, and because I'm at a point like I read a lot of like Marvel stuff, I've read DC stuff, but I'm at a point now where I like to read other stuff too, that like other publishers and, you know, even like indie comics and publishers and stuff like that. Like I just like to read different kind of stories instead of just superhero stuff. And I saw a lot of like different stuff there, which is cool. I probably should have like bought more stuff, but you know, I was worried about carrying, like I had a lot of stuff to carry. So yeah, like, you know, that was a cool place to go. I mean, a lot of the comic lovers I know in New York, some of them say that that's actually not the best comic store you can go to. But I guess if you're a tourist, you know, it's that's probably like the best experience for you to go to Midtown Comics. But apparently there's much better comic book stores out there. So I don't know.
Own Comics is still a good comic store. So boo them.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a lot of pop Funkos and, you know, collectible stuff as well, which is cool. So I like the whole entrance of it too. Like you have to walk up, like it's like a tight stairway and everything. Like, and I remember we had to wait for people to come down the staircase before we could go up. Like I kind of like that. Like some people probably won't like that, but I just like it adds like a mystery element to it. Like, oh wow, I'm about to see some crazy exclusive shit. Like, you know, it adds to it. So
And it's in a weird back alley type location. So
yeah.
yay, I'm drugged and knocked in the head.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that was cool. I was gonna say something. Oh yeah, so also Dana, like she gave me like a whole book haul as well when I went to New York. Like she gave me a stack of books. Like so, I want to say thank you for the books you gave me. I have them right here. She gave me Miles Morales. She gave me some Amish porn or something called an, uh an Amish Wanderer, I think. She gave me The Last Miss Parrish, The Widow of Wall Street. I'm looking forward to that one actually. She gave me Skylar and the Wall Creeper and Sometimes I Lie. So thanks for all those books, Dana. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Enjoy your porn.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I took because she gave me a choice. Like I took that one just because like I know she loves the Amish books, so I want to see what it's all about, you know. So I
Been
was
hearing me
like,
talk like 2 years, so
yeah,
bound to happen.
But yeah, my New York experience was great. Like I wish I was rich. Like I would literally like I would take a plane to New York for the weekend or for a week or like for 6 months at a time or something like that, just to go and read books. Like, and I would visit the bookstores like every day. Like I could easily
cool.
spend my life like that.
Oh, nice. Really cool. I'm happy you enjoyed.
Yeah, man, it was fun. Very fun.
And the Nintendo store. You also went to the Nintendo store.
Oh yeah, we saw a lot of cool stuff. We went to the Nintendo store, you know, we went to the Rockefeller Mall. We went shopping at Macy's was amazing. Like that was like Macy's. It's like it's a department store, but it's like an entire mall. Like it's actually like a mall. Like it's as big as the mall we have here in Luton, and it's like one store. Like that's crazy. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so New York is an amazing city, man, and it's probably my favorite city in the world, and I definitely want to go back there more. I would even love to live there, like, but yeah, money's other problem. But yeah, thanks Dana for showing me around and, you know, giving me books and stuff.
Happy you came and that you didn't, I was trying to make sure you wasn't bored.
Oh no, I wasn't bored at all. Like I was on cloud nine the whole time. It was amazing. So.
Yay. And you went to Harlem Week.
Oh yeah, we went to Harlem Week. Yeah, Dana showed me around the hood and everything. like the
The hood.
projects.
It's not the hood. And look over here, all the projects. He
Yeah,
almost got. It was really exciting.
we went to a church, we went to a museum.
Yep. Yep. It was pretty fun. Not bad. I'm happy you like New York.
Oh yeah, I love it. So yeah, now I feel like I got the real New York experience because I didn't just go to the touristy places. I went to like the real life places too. So
Yep.
that's
And
cool.
and Central Park.
Say it again.
And Central Park.
Central Park, yeah, we went to Central Park, and Dana schooled me on writing and stuff. She gave me some pointers and
You're a
stuff.
great writer. He's a great writer, everyone.
Thank you, I appreciate it. But I want to read some of your work because I know you went to Yale, so like I know you probably got some great stuff that you've written.
I have somewhat great stuff. I think they just took pity upon me. But your stuff is very good. You just need to work on how to unfasten a belt buckle.
Yeah. Well, I don't have too much experience with that particular scene in my lifetime, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm still learning.
We'll see. We'll sorry, that's so funny. It's over. He's the Overwatch girl, so we don't know.
Yeah, so moving on. I guess we're gonna talk about the actual books we've been reading. So I'll go first because like my list is gonna be a lot shorter. And you know, originally I said to Dana just do August books because I know she's read like so much stuff. But you can do July and August if you want to, like you know, because I'm gonna be doing July and August because I haven't read that much, so I'm gonna include July books too. So I'm gonna start by talking about Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. She's a Nigerian author, and this book is like a sci-fi fantasy book, and it's about a young girl called Binti. She's from the Heba tribe in Namibia in Africa. So yeah, she gets accepted to go to an intergalactic university because she's really excelled at her studies and everything. Her family doesn't want her to go, and her tribe and her people don't want her to leave. And she'll also be like the first Black person and the first person from like that region to ever go to that intergalactic university as well. But she decides she really wants to do this. She really wants to go. So she goes, and while she's on the ship and everything, something very drastic happens. The ship gets invaded, intercepted by an alien race, and they violently wipe out the entire ship. And Binti's like the only one left, and she uses a lot of her intelligence and her wits to kind of talk down the alien race and basically come to terms with them, like come to a compromise. And then she ends up going to the actual city that she was intending to go. Now this is a novella, so it's very short. It's like under 100 pages if you buy the paperback. But what this book does is it builds up to something bigger. I haven't read the following books. I know there's 3 of them, and I think there's another one coming. And those, the sequels are a lot more fleshed out and they're a lot lengthier. But as a setup book, I think this is really good. I just feel like it was missing some depth just because it was so short. I would have actually liked to have seen more of her family like disagreeing with her and trying to make her not go and everything. Like we actually don't get to see her family. We just get told that they're unhappy, with her leaving. But we don't actually see a scene where they're arguing with her and telling her not to go or anything. Like we're just told through the narrative voice, basically. So I think there's a lot of room to flesh things out. but I understand that this is like the first in the series, and it's like a setup book for what comes after. So, I understand that. I just feel I just finished it, and when I finished it, I felt like I wanted more, more context and more from it. But it's really good for, if you want to read something short, it is really good, and it's empowering for people like us. So, yeah, definitely check out Binti if you want to read. And it's sci-fi, but it's not overwhelming sci-fi. It doesn't have a lot of like phrases you might not understand. It's not very technical. Like, it's easy to follow, easy to understand, easy to digest. So that's really good as well. So yeah, Binti, definitely a good one. And I also read The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, which is a book that Dana actually recommended to me. I've been reading a lot of your recommendations this year, because ever since The Vegetarian, like, that ended up being my favorite book of the year, kind of. So yeah, and then I read what was the other one called? Oh man, Perfect Days. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was like another 5-star book for me. So yeah, I read The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, and it's a psychological thriller. It's about, this husband he's at an airport, and he's kind of like in a defeated state because he knows his wife is cheating on him, and he's kind of a rich guy and everything, so he's probably insecure that she married him for his riches, and she's been using his riches to build a house, and now she's sleeping with the guy that they contracted to build the house. So yeah, he's got all those thoughts going on in his mind, and he meets this woman at the airport bar in Heathrow, Heathrow Airport in London. And then, he tells her about his wife and everything, and he makes like a kind of a joke saying, "I wish I could kill her." He says it and probably doesn't actually mean it, but does somewhat mean it. But yeah, but her reaction to that is basically saying, maybe you should. And then from there, they kind of continue to ponder that concept. And then what I like about the book is how it gives us the background of that woman, that mysterious woman that, the main character starts talking to. And her story is very interesting. And, her name is Lily. The guy's name is Ted, by the way. But yeah, the way it gradually gives you Lily's story. It actually makes well, me, I can only speak for me. It actually made me sort of root for her, even though she's evil, like, even though she's doing bad things. But I actually ended up rooting for her in the story. Now, let me be clear, like, because no character in this book is likable or does the right thing. Like, it's full of bad people. So to me, Lily was just the most likable bad person in the book. And by the end of the book, I wanted to see her, win, kind of, if you will. I definitely recommend it. It's a really good book. I would put it up there with books like Girl on the Train. It's that kind of dark feel, psychological feel. And yeah, it was a really good book. Definitely a good book. I recommend it to anyone who's into
stuff. Like The Girl on the Train.
I mean, yeah, it's nothing like Girl on the Train in terms of the story and how it is, but it's that same kind of psychological thriller feel, like that dark kind of feel,
It's
like I would say readers who liked Girl on the Train would like this, but they're nothing alike though. But yeah,
I would say if you want a book that's better than The Girl on the Train, and that way surpasses The Girl on the Train, then read this book.
Yeah,
it's one of those really deep books that is more about, it questions like your actual morality, and it makes you wonder, like, do people deserve to die? Like,
yeah,
what makes someone worthy of living?
yeah. It definitely goes deeper than Girl on the Train does. Girl on the Train, I guess, is like the fast food, and this is like more of a gourmet meal kind of thing, you know. So I'd say that.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely a good book. And then also a really long book that I read, but I actually really enjoyed it. The Girl Who Played with Fire by Stieg Larsson. Now this is the second book in the Millennium series. The first one, of course, was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. So this is the follow-up to that. And basically the first book was a mystery kind of thriller, and it mainly followed the perspective of Michael Bloomvist. I'm not sure how you pronounce his surname. I think it's Bloomvist. But yeah, and basically he's a reporter who's hired by some wealthy, guy to basically investigate the disappearance of his niece that disappeared like decades ago, basically. Now this guy is kind of dying. The guy that hires Michael, he's kind of dying, and he doesn't want to die before he finds out the truth about what happened to his niece. So that's why he hires Michael to find out what really happened, and that opens up kind of an interesting mystery, but that book is so layered. It's like you have that mystery in itself, but then there's also the characters in the story that kind of drive it and bring it forward. And one of those characters is Lisbeth Salander, and she's hired by a security firm, and she's a hacker. Basically, she's really good at hacking, and yeah, she actually gets introduced to Michael, and it's suggested that she works with him to help him uncover the secrets and everything. And then they start working together, and that develops and everything. So yeah, that's the story of the first book. But this book, because one of my criticisms in the first book was that Lisbeth seemed like a sidekick when she was like the most interesting character. But the second book fixes that, because Lisbeth is definitely the main character, the main focus in the story, and her character is fleshed out completely. Like we learn a lot more about her, and we understand a lot more about her. And I don't want to delve too much into the actual plot details, because there's a lot of twists, and a lot of like big stuff happens. A lot of major stuff happens in the book. That would be spoilers, so I'm not going to dive too much into that. But yeah, the first half of the book is it's almost entirely about Lisbeth, and then around the midpoint there's a huge plot twist, and then we start to see things more from Michael Bloomvist's point of view, and then Lisbeth comes back into it again eventually, and then stuff unravels. And yeah, it's a really good book. What I tend to hear is that this book, the second book, and the third book are closely tied together, where the first book could be seen as more of a standalone thing. So like if you wanted to just read the first book and leave it at that, you could. But this book, the second book and the third book are closely tied in together, and the third book is basically a continuation of the second. So yeah, I've actually, I'll talk about it later, but I actually did start reading the third book, just because this one, it really intrigued me that much. Like it touched me a little bit, so I wanted to continue reading. So yeah, I think it's a really good book. And if you guys haven't read that series, then definitely check it out. Because one of my goals this year was to read more international books, and I started off reading The Vegetarian, read a lot of Korean, Japanese, and Swedish stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely reading more international stuff this year. And another international book that I read recently was Men Without Women, and this is a short story collection written by Haruki Murakami, which is a Japanese author. And this book is basically about men in different situations and just their interactions with women and stuff. Now, one thing I'll say about this book is reading it as a single guy this book will probably touch you a lot. Like, you'll identify with it, you'll understand a lot of things, but also, it's not just a man book. Women can read it too. And not only that, but it fills in a lot of it gives a lot of substance to how the Japanese see things as well. And even about various tragedies and events that have happened in Japan, like the tsunami and hurricanes and things of that nature. The writing in this book is so clear and concise. It's translated by trying to remember. I'll bring up their names in a sec, but it's translated actually into English, of course, because I don't read Japanese, but it still flows so well and it's so beautifully written. And even though it's easy to follow, it's like there's so much substance and depth in the writing that it's like you get these hidden nuggets, just through the writing. Like you understand a lot more than what's just being told to you. And one of the ways they achieve that is because it's short stories, so they don't flesh out the characters fully. They don't tell you every single detail about the characters. A lot of it is provided through subtext. It points out certain things about the character, and you kind of fill in the blanks based on, maybe your own experience or just your own understanding. You just fill in the blanks, kind of, for example, there's this one story where a guy can't leave his house. He's disabled, and he has a carer, a woman who's a carer, and she comes to see him, and then they sleep together and stuff, and she tells him stories and stuff like that. Now, we never actually know what his condition is, but just from the way it's written, it's like, if you're familiar with different medical conditions and stuff, you could probably understand what it is, but he doesn't plainly tell you what's wrong with the guy. It's just, he gives you little nuggets here and there, so you understand enough. And then if you catch on to it, you'll probably know what he has, what condition he has, or whatever. That's just an example. So it's like the stories are filled a lot like that. They're presented a lot like that. Like, it doesn't give you the full context of everyone, but it gives you enough for you to understand. And I really liked it because it's like just understanding all those, all the things that aren't fully expressed to you. Like, sometimes that adds so much depth to it as well. So yeah, it's a really good book. I kind of flew through it in a few days, and yeah, some of it is very powerful. One thing though is this book will probably ruin your faith in marriage, because it's like so many of these stories involve infidelity and wives sleeping around, even husbands too. And it's like Japanese see that as the norm. Like, marriage is basically cheating and trying to get away with it, kind of thing. Like, you get bored of each other and then you sleep around and hope that you don't get caught. Like, I get the feeling that that's how the author and people in Japan see marriage. And that, I don't know if that's a problem, or I don't know if that's the norm, like, all over the world. I really don't know. But one thing this book does is it makes me think, like, I don't even want to get married. Like, after reading that, like, it completely ruins my faith. But yeah, like, how would you feel about that, Dana? Since you're a woman, I need to get the other perspective on this. So
I don't. No marriage.
Oh, so you don't have any faith in marriage either?
I know. You know what? I don't. If you want to get married, go ahead and get married. To me, marriage is for business and for tax purposes.
Well, there you go.
There you go. I don't need a ring and paperwork to tell someone that I want to be with them long enough, in my life. So
Yeah, I agree. Now, because I get the feeling that some people might read this collection of stories and feel that it's misogynistic just because it comes from a male perspective. But the like both the men and the women felt very real in this story, and it's not like it's just a collection of stories that bashes women or teaches you that you shouldn't, treat them right or stay with them or whatever. Like, it's not that kind of book. I want it to be clear that that's not the type of book this is. Like, it's about the human connection between men and women, period. Like, it's just about that. That's the fundamentals of it, and it's presented in different scenarios. So yeah, and beyond that, it fills in a lot of context as to how the Japanese see things too, so, and traditions and things like that. So yeah, I think it was a very well put together collection of stories, and I highly recommend it. It definitely resonated with me a lot. So yeah, that's what I've been reading. Those are the actual books that I've finished lately. I've got stuff that I'm reading now, but that will be for our next segment. So,
Nice.
so yeah, now it's your turn, Dana. Let us know what you've been reading.
Well, I would like to apologize in advance because it's a lot. Technically, it's been 13 books. So I apologize. I will get through this as quick as possible because it's 13 whole books. Basically, I've been reading a lot. I had some good ones. I've had some bad ones. I've had more bad than good. But I had The President is Missing, which on the cover, it says it's written by Bill Clinton and James Patterson. But to my shock and horror and sadness, they had a ghostwriter. So they didn't write anything. So that really kind of broke my heart. And I was able to meet James Patterson and Bill Clinton. And they, it was also during a talk and they discussed their book. But forget the ghostwriter for a second. The ghostwriter, I will say, is a very good writer. It's basically about a president who is in the middle of impeachment hearings. So that should sound very familiar. Those who are aware of American politics, Bill Clinton was impeached, technically. So it's a president in the middle of impeachment hearings. People are very mad at him. They don't know why he was basically having meetings with a terrorist. They don't know if they was trying to pay him off. They don't trust him. So this is a country, America, which does not trust their president. They decided, Congress and the House has come together. They want to impeach him. He's going through the whole trial thing, but he's not revealing why he met with the terrorist. And so he believes that his way of, without spoiling it, to saving the country is for him to leave. So he goes missing. He doesn't tell anyone. He skips out on his protective services guys, the Secret Service people, and he goes completely missing. And the book, for me, I don't think it was marketed accurately. The book was marketed as The President is Missing. Where is the president? We have to find the president. When in fact, when you read the book, we know exactly where the president is. It follows the president from him leaving and going to where he wants to go in order to save whatever it is he wants to save. I'm not going to spoil it. The book also goes through the terrorist, what he's doing, the president, and also what would you call it? An assassin. She's a female pregnant assassin who listens to Bach, and therefore her name is Buck. And it's supposed to be one of highly skilled, very trained type of assassin. And she's going against, the president. She's trying to kill the president on top of the president is trying to kill the terrorist. So it's a lot of action sequences. It feels like a James Patterson novel, but it's better written because James Patterson nor Bill Clinton wrote the book. But I liked it. I felt like a movie. And by the way, Showtime has announced that they are making it into a series. So yay them. The book was very good. It was very exciting. My only problem was that it gets very corny and very cheesy. It feels like a Bill Clinton wet dream where we go from, people can't stand me and they're calling me a liar. Remember the whole Monica Lewinsky thing? To him basically being the country hero. And there are these monologues that he delivers about country and standing up for people. And, basically they insert the Black Lives Matter into it. And all the other kind of political things that we're going through right now. And it's really interesting that it's basically these Russians who are trying to take down America. So those who don't know the news, political, stuff going down. We had an election rigged, supposedly, allegedly. Don't at me, please. That, Russians attacked the election in real life. So it's like these Russian terrorists are trying to take down America, and only Bill Clinton, not Bill Clinton, the president in the book can save the country. And so I'm not going to spoil anything, but it was very well written. It's fast paced. And in the fashion of James Patterson, it's like a page a chapter. So you're going to fly through it very easily. And I liked the characters, but my problem is that it got extremely cheesy at the end, where it was like, remember the Independence Day movie with the whole Independence Day speech? So it gets corny and it gets cheesy, but it's good to read. I enjoyed it for what it was. You take it for what it is, no problem. The other book I read was Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, which I absolutely loved. I love this book very much. I was introduced to this through the movie Love, Simon, which I loved. So I was like, I have to read this. But this one was kind of weird. I didn't like the book when I first started it. I couldn't really get into it. I couldn't get into any of the characters. It's about Simon. Simon is a kid in high school who has a secret. He's gay. He is outed by a classmate in order for him to get closer to a girl. He basically is blackmailed. So they blackmail Simon so that this guy named Martin can get closer to Simon's friend so they can date him because he has a crush. My thing is that it's basically cyberbullying. It's bullying. And we had a lot of cases where even just recently, a 9-year-old boy killed himself because he came out as gay and he was being bullied. The thing with the problem is the book is heavily, if you read it, you're like, this is bullying. It's never addressed. Everything is like this really lighthearted matter of, oh no, my world is going to end, but not seriously. So my thing is, I wish that they would have addressed it more seriously. I wish they would have taken that into consideration. However, with that said, as I continued reading the book, it just started to melt my heart. And it was like, really beautiful moments. There's parts of the story that's told through email. The thing is that he is outed as being gay, and his whole world is just like, he thinks is going to fall apart, and it just ends up being one of those really, really positive stories. But before he's outed as being gay, there's this other kid who's gay himself, but he doesn't reveal who he is. So it's like, as he finds him on a message board, and they end up doing this correspondence where it's like, I'm gay too. And they kind of help each other through their problems and how they're going to tell their parents. And it's just one of the most beautiful written, big old ugly cry. It's just really sweet and really adorable. And I would have liked better if they would have just wrote the book just based on their emails, because the story itself to me was like a throwaway. I really didn't need it. There were a lot of interchanging storylines going on with the other characters that were his friends, a lot of things that was going on with the high school. But the only thing that really caught my interest was this love story told through email. But for what it was, I enjoyed it. The other book was Leah on the Offbeat, which is also by Becky Albertalli. It is the sequel to Love, Simon. I did not like this book as much as I liked Love, Simon. In fact, this came off like a fan fiction, which is really weird, but it just didn't have like the same heart and focus, and I didn't really feel like this genuineness about it. For those who don't know, Leah on the Offbeat is basically Leah is one of the characters from Love, Simon. It's one of the best friends of Simon, and she is a girl drummer. She's in a band, And she's really, really sarcastic and like has this deadpan humor. And we follow her story, and basically she is bisexual. And she's just trying to find herself. She is an only child. Her mom is like single and really, they're not privileged at all. And it's just her trying to come into her own, and her just trying to find herself through school and with her parent and prom and everything that else goes on in college. So I liked it, but I wasn't like really into it. I liked it more for the fact that you also got to see a continuation of Love Simon's story and what happened with their relationship and whether or not it blossomed or if it fizzled out. So I was more interested in that. I really, honestly, sorry, I just did not care about Leah at all. So that was just an okay book for me. Another book I read was called Tell Me Lies. That's by Carola Loverling. It's about this very toxic love story and how they're a couple, and he just keeps cheating and breaking her heart. And it's one of those stories that you hear from all the time. Oh, you should leave that guy. You should leave him. So she leaves him, but they seem to come back together. And then there's another fight. And it's like, oh, you should leave him. There's another fight. And it's this continuous circle. And she was attracted to him because he's really charismatic and he's like dark and, charming and complicated. And she just keeps getting her heart broken, and she doesn't have any type of confidence. She doesn't have any type of self-esteem about herself. And so the whole time it was like, okay, so this is going to be a book where she comes into her own and she's going to find out that she doesn't need anyone, and she's going to be really successful and really happy with just herself. It never got there. It's just them in this relationship arguing back and forth, breaking up, oh, I love you, and coming back together again. It was one of the worst books of this year that I've read. Basically, to me, it was 0 stars. It was horrible. It just didn't go anywhere. Nothing happened. It was boring, and none of the characters are likable at all, and it wasn't a single darn thing that I liked about this book. And I do not recommend it at all. Not at all. Another one I read was Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake. This was a very powerful book about two twins, a boy and a girl. They're twins. They're living a really happy life. They're really close, like, your best friend ever. And they all have friends in school. And, it's a small town, small neighborhood type of thing. Everyone in the town goes to the same school. And he has this girlfriend named Hannah. And they all go to a party. Everything's really great. Next day, Hannah accuses the brother, Owen, of rape. And so it is the most tragic story because you have this girl whose name is Mara, and she's stuck in the middle. Does she take her brother's side, or does she take her friend Hannah's side? And it is this emotional book about what she decides to do, and she does her own type of investigation. And it's one of those things where you're like, I don't know if he did it or not. And she's basically, I don't know if he did it or not. And you end up learning more about that night and what happens, and the town, and especially the school, take sides. And so it is gut-wrenchingly powerful. It is beautiful. It is one of those books that is necessary, and it will break your heart. And like at the end of the book, I just felt physically drained. Like you find out what happens, and she knows what happens because that's her twin. Twins have that built-in like sense where they can just feel each other and know what's really going on. And it was just terrifying. And like also the family gets split up behind this because the parents are like, nope, this is our son. Our son cannot do this. And then the daughter is kind of like, what happens if he did? So it's like a he versus she on all points, and it was beautiful. One
Wait,
of the most beautiful.
what's the name of that again?
It's called The Girl Made of Stars.
Okay.
It's a YA book, and it was just powerful. Another book I read was All These Beautiful Strangers by Elizabeth. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Klehfoth? It's Klehfoth. This was basically it was basically about this woman. Her name is Grace. She's really beautiful. Her husband name is Alistair, and basically she disappears. She disappears without a trace, and she leaves behind her 7-year-old daughter. And it's like, why did she disappear? And the father's like, oh, she committed suicide. The town's like, she committed suicide. But this daughter is like, I don't think so. This doesn't feel right. So 10 years later, she's still struggling with the disappearance of her mother. And people are at this point are like, she's dead. Please just let it go. It's okay. It's going to be all right. It's this weird kind of book where it's like she ends up going to the school, and the school has this group called the A's. It's a very secretive society, and they pick these people, and you have to do these really degrading tasks for them. It's kind of like hazing. So, you do the hazing thing. So you have to do these degrading tasks, and they're known for terrorizing the faculty and the administration. Like, say, for example, you failed your test. So the group will get together to figure out a way how to change the answers, or to blackmail the teacher into changing the answers. So you end up getting a passing grade in that class. So it was really interesting by just a description, because it's like, well, maybe I can, you figure out what's going on with the mother's disappearance, because come to find out, she used to belong to the A's back many years ago when her mother was a teenager. So it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm going to figure out what happened. So it's this weird thing where it's like a murder mystery thriller book. And then on top of it, it reads like a Pretty Little Liars Gossip Girl book. It's one of those books that doesn't exactly know what it wants to be. However, I was kind of really disappointed with the book. The book really didn't go anywhere. And even though it's marketed as an adult novel, it read like a YA novel. It was just meh. I expected them to focus on the A's and what they can do, their power. How do you get into the A's? What happens if you cross the A's? They show a little bit of what happens if you cross the A's, but they really don't dive into the history of the group and how the group, affected or influenced her mother. They later put along together how it's connected, but this just did not really go anywhere. It felt like a Lifetime movie drama, and it involved other people's deaths, including there was a student named Jake who committed suicide. So that's what she's also trying to investigate as well. It just went all over the place. It just wasn't really well focused. And after a while, I just didn't care. So I wasn't a fan of that book at all. So the next book I have is A Simple Favor by Darcey Bell. Since A Simple Favor, if you don't know, if you've seen all the commercials, they turned it into a movie with Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick. And that was the only reason why I wanted to read this book. It's about these two women who are connected to each other because they're kids, little kids. They're like around 7 or so. They're in school. They form a friendship and they become best friends. So then, the parents got to hang around each other as well because the kids are best friends. So they form this friendship and they start talking about life, and they're really like seem to be like into each other, not in like a sexual way, just like a regular friendship. You're my friend. And all of a sudden, one of them goes missing. And so it's this really weird type of mystery novel where she has to figure out what happened to her friend, because both of them, their name is Emily and Stephanie. So Stephanie goes missing. The thing is that she, asked her a very simple favor. Can you pick my son up from school? I can't make it. Okay. So she picks the son up, takes the son to, you know, her mother's house. But Stephanie never comes home, just disappears out of the blue. And she becomes very worried. The thing is, it's kind of really weird because she's really polite about it and she never freaks out. So it's just like, my friend has disappeared. I don't know what happened. I should be worried. So she contacts the husband who is working, you know, overseas. So he just doesn't know anything. He doesn't really seem to be a really well involved husband and father. But they go through this weird type of connection and relationship of trying to find out where the wife went. The thing is, that sounds really fun and really interesting. This was, again, one of the worst books I have read of this year. It starts off really great, and it starts off as like, oh, something's going to happen. You get into it and you're really excited about it. And it gives you like that Gone Girl vibe, but it was just awful. The plot was very simple, but the author kept throwing in different things that either tried to confuse the reader, or I don't even know if the author thought out the whole plot before writing it, but it kind of felt like one of those books that you just write on the spot and you just publish it. It was very convoluted. Things didn't make any sense at times. And it was like, it's plot twist after plot twist after plot twist after plot twist, to the point where it gets stupid. It's exhausting. The writing was lazy. The characters were just really terrible. The main character was just stupid. The husband was beyond stupid. He was just stupid to the point where it's like, why are you even in this book? You're just too stupid. Why do I have to read about you? He was stupid. There were situations and conversations that were boring. There were situations that were forced. There's a relationship that ends up happening that I'm not going to spoil it. If you want to read the book, more power to you. But there is this twist thing that just makes no goddamn sense at all, that I hated every single page. And I will never read anything by this author ever again. Sorry.
Ouch.
It reminded me of the next. I mean, if you love it, go right ahead. Remember, we're all different. Everyone has different likes. Go right ahead and read it. But I read this while I was in the hospital, and I was like, they're gonna have to just put me in ICU because I was literally dying. I was asking them, please put me in ICU because this book is gonna kill me. It was off, but it's a short read. I read it in one day, and I'm happy it only took one day of my life. But that was a lot of hours. So, yeah. Oh, okay. So the next book I read was Neverworld Wake by Marisha Passl. P-S-S-L? Passl? This is a really, really weird book. Okay, so here's how it starts, where they have there are 5 best friends, and they were all a part of the same school, and they were all beautiful, and they're cool, and, they're all rich. And one of them committed suicide. Okay, it said that he committed suicide. And Beatrice, one of the friends who was dating Jim, or really liked Jim at the time, she's devastated. And, we all mourn differently. She decided to separate herself from the group because she just couldn't take the pain of it and being reminded of Jim. So 1 year, though, after graduation, they end up returning. So they have this reunion, and Beatrice decides that she wants to come. And she goes to this place called Wincroft. And it's basically a seaside estate, and it's really nice. And, it's going to be like a really simple night. You all get together, you get some food, some booze, and you just talk about how you've been doing, how's life, and it's just a basic reunion. And everyone's all really successful and really smart, and you're like, oh my God, and you're like only 18? But okay, everyone's really successful, really smart, tons of money. However, they get into a car accident. And when they get into this car accident, it's really horrible. They crash into this tree. They can't find the driver who hit them. So they decide to go home, right? No one's gravely injured. So it's like, we should just go home. This is terrible. So they go back home to Wincroft, and they all wake up only to realize it's the same day. So they're reliving the same day continuously. Then this really weird grave, I'm not like garden keeper. I don't know. I'm poor. I don't have these landscape people. But a landscape artist comes to the door and it's rainy and thundering. And he's like, hello, I'm here to tell you that you're now stuck in this place called the Neverworld. And in the Neverworld, you will relive the same day over and over until you decide which one of you should die. And I was like, what? I can't tell you why this person has to die. I can't tell you why the man showed up. I can't tell you what happened with the accident. But it is a mystery, fantasy, sci-fi, quantum physics thing where they're freaking the heck out. But everything that the man says is true. They're stuck in the same day. And they keep reliving the same day over and over again, no matter what they do. So they all freak out. And they don't have like the same track of time. So you don't know how long you've been in this time period. So what may feel like one day may actually be hours or years or decades. So they're stuck there until they come to a consensus of who they want to die. Someone has to die in order for them to get out this time zone.
So this is much darker than Groundhog Day, then.
Yeah. It's like, it's really weird. It's like a really dark version of Happy Death Day. It's just dark. And it's a lot of science. If you love science and quantum physics, but they make it so that you understand. You're not left there like, I don't understand anything. This book is above my head. They explain everything. And so Beatrice and the other characters are trying to find their way out. But the thing, there's also like a side mission. And the side mission for Beatrice is to find out what happened to Jake. What really went on with Jake? Did he commit suicide? Because Jake was found thrown into a river. And it was like, I know Jake would never kill himself. So it's the mystery of what happens to Jake, and then these people like coming to terms with being stuck in this realm because they all behave differently. They react differently. Some search for answers. Some decide they're going to live recklessly, because no matter what happens, you're not going to die. You just relive the same day. So there's like this weird robbery thing that occurs, and I can't tell you why it occurs. But there's like a robbery thing. And like it also talks about what happens with people with power and money. And it's one of the best books that I've read. It was so good.
What's the name again?
Neverworld Wake.
Okay.
It was like Wizard of Oz meets Dreams May Come meets Groundhog's Day, but like none of the humor. And it was just really good. It's young adult, but it reads like an adult. Like, I don't know why they classified it as young adult. It's extremely well detailed, and you just get pulled into this story. And it doesn't drag at all. But it teaches you a very important lesson at the end. And it's like basically, friends ain't shit. Just live your life alone. Don't friend anybody. Everyone sucks.
Amen.
So that was like one of the most surprising books, and I would have never read it on its own, but it was recommended to me. One of the books that I read also was The Last Mrs. Parrish. I'm not going to say much because I really do want you to read this book. It's really okay. Here's the thing. So it's really, really great. Let me just explain. So it's about this woman named Amber Patterson, right? And she's just tired of being a nobody. She's plain. She's invisible. Nobody pays any attention. Doesn't have any friends. And she's like, you know what? I deserve money. I deserve power. I deserve to be the one everybody talks about. I deserve this really great life. And so she's like, you know what? I'm going to be that. There's this woman named Daphne, who's a socialite. She's a philanthropist. She's married to a real estate mogul, and their life is like a fairy tale. She's like, you know what? I'm going to steal that life. I am going to become the last Mrs. Parrish. I'm going to knock Daphne down, and I'm going to be the husband's new wife. And so she plots and she schemes, and she's like, you know what? I'm going to get into that life. I'm going to figure it out. And she ends up meeting Daphne. And she puts into her plan of, let me be real close with this woman so I can slowly knock her out the way so I can meet the husband. And me and the husband can go on and live this happy life. But like all things, when they say the grass ain't always green on the other side, God damn it, it is true. So I'm not saying anything, but I will say this. The grass is not always greener on the other side. And sometimes it's best to be a nobody, because what ends up happening is just a hot mess. And that's literally all I can say about that book. I will say that I had very mixed emotions about this book. And I was just debating as I'm reading this book. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is ridiculous. This is crazy. But at the same time, it's realistic. I would compare it to like a Sharknado, where it's like, this makes no sense, but I want to keep reading. But I do know that this could happen. And you hear about relationships like this, and I can't explain why because it'll be a big spoiler. And I really do want Gary to read it. But the book is written by Liv Constantine. Liv Constantine is was a made-up name because it's written by two people. They're sisters. And so the book is told in two perspectives. It's told by Amber and by Daphne. And it feels like it's written by two different people, which would work because they're two different characters. You're not going to have the same voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
well,
it works that way, but it does throw you off. My thing with this is that it's not perfect at all. It's a mystery, but it kind of lacks that tension. Because, you know, you have somebody who literally wants to take your life away from you. And she's in your home. You're friends now. So there should be that kind of like unspoken tension where like you feel kind of weird about this person. Or then you're like the other one's like, yeah, I'm going to kill you, bitch. But you never really get that kind of tension that you really want out of the book. Also, there's a lot of things that happen that I can't really tell you about. That's just like, it's realistic, but at the same time, I started chuckling. Like, I'm one of those weird people who just start chuckling when things gets weird. It also, I watch a lot of Lifetime movies, and so it really felt like a Lifetime movie drama. Not knocking it, but it kind of felt like that Lifetime movie thing. Like, I took 2 years to read this. This was an arc. So I had this months before it came out. And I'm just now getting to it. And that was only because it was a book club. And I remember I read like a little bit before, and then somehow I put it down and didn't return until like 2 years later. Not to say that that's bad. That's just something that happens. But it was interesting. It was interesting of what happens. But there are certain characters that are introduced that just kind of fizzle away. And you're like, what happened to that character? So it's weird. It gets very single white female-ish. It gets like, remember that movie with Beyonce, Obsession? I don't know if you have that movie in the UK.
Yeah, I've seen that with Idris Elba.
Yeah, it gets like Obsession. It's basically Obsession. So
Since you gave it to me, I will read it one day.
Do you like one day? Please read it. Please.
I will.
Yay. So another book I read was Boy Meets Boy by David Levithan. It was basically about this boy in high school, and it's a weird high school. I mean, you got drag queens in the high school. There's cheerleaders. The cheerleaders are the drag queens, and everyone's like openly gay, and like there's a gay straight alliance, and everyone's like, I don't care what you are. It's basically a gay utopian. It's a gay utopian world. So this is boy who meets this other boy. So name is Paul, and he bumps into this guy named Noah at the bookstore. And it's one of those insta love books where it's like, oh my God, I love him. He's beautiful. And so he proceeds to try to find this boy because even though they go to the same high school, it is a very huge high school. So he's trying to find the boy, and so he can, ask him out on a date. And he tried to enlist his friends, and one of his friends is Daryl, but now his name is Darlene, and it's the star quarterback, but also a drag queen. So it's a really weird, quirky book that you either will really like or really hate. But I found its quirkiness to be really adorable, and it was also really original. And I grew up in the performing arts world, so it was really relatable, even though the quarterback was a drag queen. Everything about it was just really relatable. And I just really loved it. But I do wish that it was more in-depth. I wish there was more dimension to the story. It was a very, very quick read, though. So if you just need anything that's really, really quick, read this book. It's only like 185 pages. So I liked it. I'm almost done. She Was the Quiet One by Michele Campbell. This was weird. This was a book about twins. One was the good twin. One was the bad twin. The bad twin was one of those who always falls in with the wrong crowd, always fighting, always arguing, and always getting into it with her sister. The sister was considered the good twin. Great grades, didn't have any problems, loved school, loved learning, wanted to just simply, have friends and just be regular. Their mother dies. Unfortunately, she had cancer. They don't know where the father is. Had cancer. The cancer took her out, boom, really quickly. So the ones who are left raising the twins is the grandmother. The grandmother, come to find out, is an heiress. Rich, rich, rich beyond riches. She sends them off to like this boarding school, where it's supposed to be the best school ever. And it's really prestigious and it's all bougie and it's really great, except for at the very same time, it's really ratchet. Like it's just really bad. Because everyone is really rich, they can get away with whatever they want to and still keep the label of being a prestigious school. But basically, there's like orgy parties and principals getting not assaulted, but this principals they're being pranked on by the kids, and it's like in a really malicious way. And it's just not that great of a school when you really look at it. Like it has problems, like a lot of problems, a lot of bullying, a lot of sex and orgies, but they don't go into that in the book. It's just spoken of. Anyway, so Rose is basically like the good twin and Belle is the bad twin. When they go to the school, Rose is like, she's in heaven because it's like education, because they came from a really poor neighborhood. So you're not going to really get that type of quality education than you would in a prestigious school. So even though the students are ratchet, they have really great education system. So she's like in her zone. She's happy. She's like, yes, she's making a little bit of friends, but she's not making the big friends. Belle, on the other hand, she ends up falling into the crowd that's like the kids who sleep around and drink and don't pay attention to authority and curses out everyone and starts fights. But because they're rich, my grandma can just write a check and that's, the end of things. No suspension, no expel, nothing. But what happens is Belle, she ends up falling into the really wrong crowd and she ends up doing this prank. It's like this weird hazing prank that the school have done for many, many years, where it's weird how to explain it. It's a slipper attack. You attack someone with a slipper and you rip off all their clothes to humiliate them. And now we have this modern technology, Snapchat. It goes on Snapchat. So it's this question of, is this really innocent or is this basically pornography? And so she has to be reprimanded, but it's like, how exactly do you reprimand someone with all of this money? On top of that, here's where it gets a little funky. Rose, really great, really smart, really intelligent. However, she's like always looking out for her sister. And it comes to a point where it's like, enough is enough. When does it start to break Rose? Because there's only so much that you can do for someone who doesn't want to change. And Rose basically takes on the role as being a mother. But she's also a kid. And she's trying to help her sister who doesn't want anything to do with her. So it's a lot of pressures and things that happen. Then there is another story that's told by the school gets a new, I guess you could call it, headmaster. So the headmaster, they're new. It's a couple. They have a wife, they have a baby, and they have to, they move onto the grounds. And the husband, he recently had a scandal, but everything was overlooked. So he's starting a new life. So he ends up being a mentor to the girls. Also, the wife ends up becoming a mentor as well. So the wife takes on Rose while the husband takes on Belle. But indiscretions start happening, and it becomes a huge scandal, as I'm not going to spoil it, as to what happens. And one of the sisters ends up dead. And it's really about, what happened to the sister. And it's called She Was the Quiet One. Is like, how can you expect this from someone? And it ends up being this weird event. It is a love triangle that happens. It's just ridiculousness, but like ridiculousness in the best way. So I thoroughly enjoyed reading the book. There were elements, especially at the end, that felt really rushed. So I was like, I didn't appreciate that because I thought it was like really great going up to it. But then at the end, it kind of got really over dramatic and rushed. But other than that, I thought it was a very good book. Almost done. One of the book I read, last book, almost last, is The Number One Chinese Restaurant by Lillian Lee. It's about this family who owns a Chinese restaurant, and they're basically the son wants to break away and finds his own destiny, and he wants to run his own restaurant. So it becomes this family feud that happens, and it also involves a lot of money stealing and laundering and embezzlement and a lot of things that go down. The problem with the book is that it is painfully boring. Takes place in a Chinese restaurant. I expected we was going to learn about the culture and especially the food. None of that. It's just rambling nonsense. There's 3 different perspectives, but it jumps around. Everyone is named similar, so you get very confused as to what's going on. All of the characters are boring. I don't like the way it's written. For me, I couldn't focus. I couldn't get into the book. I really did not like it. It was draining. It was boring, and I could not finish it because the writing was just so detached, and all of the characters were so terrible. I don't mind terrible characters, but you make them boring as well. So the whole execution just fell for me. I didn't like it at all. So, yay, that's it. I was to have one more book, but I'm like still in the middle of it, and we'll save that for next month.
Awesome. That was a long list there. I hope one day I'll be able to read that many books in 2 months. But that's fine. It's cool. It's fine.
It's very hot here, and so I refuse to go out. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. I added some of those books to my wish list now after you described them. So
yay.
Yep. So yeah, good list of books there from both of us. Now let's get into what we're reading next and what we're going to read. So I'll go first, and yeah, so I already mentioned that I'm reading The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest, which is the 3rd book in the Millennium series by Stieg Larsson. And this was the last one he actually wrote before he died. The ones that come after this weren't written by him. So I think I'm going to end off on this one because I hear that the ones that he didn't write weren't, as good. And I want, if I'm going to continue, I want it to be by him. I want it to be his original vision of, where his characters go. But yeah, I'm still early into the book. So, I don't have too many impressions of it yet, but I will have a full review of it, once I do finish it, and then I'll be talking about it probably on the next show that we record. But yeah, that's one book. And also, I actually got contacted by an author who writes legal thrillers, and her name is Dale Manolakis. And she's based in California. She actually she passed her legal degree and everything, and she passed the bar and
all that stuff. So she's legit. And I read a lot of John Grisham, who writes legal thrillers also, who used to be a lawyer. So I wanted to try, I was actually going to read a John Grisham novel sometime soon, like, but then, she hit me up, she saw the site and everything and sent me a message, and she told me, I'd like if you would read my books and maybe do an article or a review or something. So I was like, okay, and she actually made it possible for me to acquire her books. Let's put it that way. So I bought 3 of her books, and I started reading the first one, which is called Lethal Lawyers. And yeah, so far so good. You never really know what to expect when an indie author contacts you to read their work. And I definitely don't want to bash indie authors either, because I am somewhat an indie author. I have independent works out there. And the thing is, like, there are really talented people out there who write and publish their work. It's just that the ones that aren't talented and who just, write something quickly without much effort and then publish it online, those are the ones that, set a stigma and a precedent about indie authors, and, they make it look bad and make it look tacky and everything. But there's actually really good writers out there who, perhaps they've sent their work off to publishers for, submission and everything, and they just get rejected, dozens of times. I mean, even J.K. Rowling was rejected a ton of times for Harry Potter. Like, a lot of other big publishers passed on Harry Potter. So it's just the fact that, the publishing industry is so overly saturated that it's not possible for everyone to get their book published. It's just really not possible at all. So some people have to publish independently, and for a lot of authors, that's actually how they make their name. So yeah, I definitely want to highlight that. And I do like when indie authors send me their work, and then I actually give them critiques as well, because a few months ago, somebody actually sent me some of their work. It was like a cyberpunk book and stuff. And, I gave them some honest feedback. I didn't write anything about it, but I gave them honest feedback about it. And that's probably going to help them, and when they come back and, try to pitch it again. So I do love to support indie authors. And this one happens to be a really good writer. So I want to give a shout out to Dale Manalakas. And she has a few legal novels out there. The only thing I will say is she should probably invest in a book cover designer, just to get a more professional look. But yeah, definitely good so far. But that's all that's really on my radar for the moment. I do have my eye on the other stuff, and Dana gave me a bunch of books, and I eventually want to read some of those too. But for the moment, those are the books that I'm reading. How about you, Dana?
I think The Last Mrs. Parrish will be fun for you because, I need opinions.
Yeah, if I get through these quick enough, then I'll probably pick that up, because that looks like it'll be a quick book to get through as well. So.
And Perfect Nanny.
Oh yeah, that's still on the list.
I keep telling you so many books. Yeah. Me, my list changes all the time, and so I apologize. But I am currently in the middle of reading Catwoman Soul Seeker, which is a part of the DC Icons book series. The one that, remember, Batman Nightwalker, then there was Wonder Woman Warbringer, and now it's Catwoman Soul Stealer. Oh, I love this book with so much heart and so much soul. It is so good. It follows Selena, who is trying to struggle. She's just struggling. She's trying to just make it. She's basically trying to survive in the world. She has a sister. Her sister has cystic fibrosis. They're poor. The mother's a drug addict, like in the back alley, getting high, like drug addict in a crack house. They're on food stamps. She's struggling to pay the bills. And her sister is just struggling to breathe because she has the cystic fibrosis. For those who don't know, it's basically a massive accumulation of mucus that the body can't expel. The mucus ends up being trapped sometimes in the organs, and what ends up happening is there's a lot of infections occur that way. Also, a lot of lung infections. So that a lot of people end up dying. She's on the list for a lung transplant, but they're like I said, very poor. Food stamps, mothers on crack. In the crack house, so they're suffering. She ends up getting an invitation by Ra's al Ghul's daughter, Talia, to basically join this elite school. The thing is that she would have to never see her sister again, because it's a weird thing where the police end up finding out that the mother is not there. And, it's child welfare check, and they have to go into foster care. But the deal is that they'll cut the deal for Talia because for Selena, because Selena is a very skilled fighter. She makes her money by doing like these back alley illegal fights. And somehow the League of Assassins found out about this, and Talia was like, come hang with us. But she doesn't fully tell her the full details of everything. So she ends up going through this training, and then the story actually takes place 2 years later. Well, now she is this very successful, powerful, beautiful woman who, knows all these deadly secrets and how to take down men. And she ends up moving next door to Luke Fox. Luke Fox is the son of Lucius Fox. Batman, however, is on this secret mission. And so we don't know where he's at. He's not in the book. He's away. And I don't know whether or not this book connects to the Batman Nightwalker series. I really hope it does, because that would be wonderful. But so far, so Luke Fox is his story. He's Batwing. And he's, basically taken up the role for Batman because Batman is away. And he is trying to, survive in America while being a black man. And also he just came back from the military and he's dealing a lot with PTSD. So it's this weird combination of I'm a superhero, but once I take that suit off, I'm still a black man in America and how I'm treated. And the disadvantages that I have because of my skin color, even though my parents are millionaires and I'm a genius. So that also is Selena is trying to steal this piece of artwork. And she ends up running into Luke Fox, and their stories intertwine. Also, you have in there Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and some of the other Batman characters. And the way that it's put together is just so beautiful. It's by Sarah J. Maas, who wrote the Throne of Glass series.
Oh, I can't read that now.
What, the Throne? No, I don't remember which series she was. The Throne of Glass, right?
Throne of Glass and Court of Thorns and Roses. So I've got to read that book now.
So here's the weird thing. The Court of Thorn and Roses, I could not for the love of me get into that book. I did not like the writing. I couldn't connect to anything. This is a complete 180 where it was like from boom, day one. I was just right into the book. I loved the story. I loved how it was written. I love the characters. I love how she interchanges. The fight sequences that she has, they are very well detailed. The whole bullwhip thing, because, Catwoman has the bullwhip and the cat suit. And you see this transformation to when she was almost about to be 18. It takes place right when she's 17. And you see this loving, caring relationship that she has with her sister. And it's really sad. It's really heartbreaking. And it has so many different elements to it that it's not like, oh, this is a Batman or a Batwing or a Catwoman book. This says a lot about society. She goes into race. She goes into class. She explains, the Black Lives Matter movement. And I'm like, this isn't a Batman book, but it is crazy. And it's very good. And also it was very similar to Marie Lu's Batman Nightwalker, because that, again, he was a teenager and he was very aware of his privilege. And everyone in this book seems to be very aware of their environment, of their privilege that they have, of white privilege, of being rich privilege, what it is to be black, what it is to be a white woman, that type of women being discriminated against as well. But it is an amazing book. And I'm halfway through it, but it is such a good book.
All right,
So
yeah,
far.
I got to read that because I like that author.
And Poison Ivy is like crazy. And Harley Quinn, she's crazy too. So yeah, definitely one of the amazing. One of the other books I plan on reading is called Beartown. It is by Frederick Backman. I believe it's German, but they translated it obviously because only German word I know is like 9. Beartown is basically this small town. And it's a very small community, and it's a rural community. And it takes place in like, the town is really focused on a hockey career. And their hockey is like a hockey town. And they're really like focused on hockey. Like everyone's struggling and nobody can make it. But it's like, we're going to pour our energy and our love and our passion into the hockey team. And so the hockey team is about to compete in the junior hockey tournament, right, for the national semifinals. And they finally have a chance at winning, and the whole town spirit is uplifted because of this. And it's kind of weird because the hockey team has to basically handle everyone else's hopes and dreams of them winning. So you have to struggle with that too, of like, oh, if I lose, I'll let myself down, but I'm going to also let down the town. And it ends up with this weird gun violent attack. So like there's a gun violence that happens in the school and how it changes the school, the hockey team, and the game. So that's called Beartown. I very much look forward to reading that because that seems amazing and awesome.
So that's your list of...
I mean, that is what I hope. I have like the Omarosa book. Omarosa, I apologize for reading this book. I really do. But just out of plain curiosity, she worked in the White House. Nobody knew what exactly she did.
Probably has a lot of dirt. I'm sure
she does. She has some dirt and she has recordings, and it's very well crafted where she has dates and times and timestamps and video recordings and audio recordings. So it's like, oh, this is really, a lot of dirt. But Omarosa is the type of person where it's like, really, do we really trust exactly what she says? But we know that her information may exactly be true. So it's just one of those, another insider account to her time being at the White House. One of the other books I have is called The Other Woman by Sandy Jones. It is about a couple, right? And he is in love with this woman. His name is Adam. He's in love with Emily, and Emily thinks that Adam is perfect, and everyone is happy. But however, there is a woman lurking in the shadows that cannot stand Emily, and she wants Emily to go away, even possibly die. But she has a deep bond with Adam. So she's like, I'm not leaving. And Adam is like, well, I don't think she should leave. So Emily is basically on her own in this relationship. And she's just struggling over like, what does she do? And I don't know if I should like spoil who the other woman is, because just by the description alone is so good. But the other woman that Adam refuses to get rid of, that he loves also with all of his heart, is his mother. So it's about the in-law from hell and what each person is willing to do to get rid of each other. So that sounds really fun and really exciting to read. Enough. And the last one, very interesting, is called Rust and Stardust by T. Greenwood. It's so sad. It takes place in Camden, New Jersey in 1948. It's basically a dare that a group of girls in a cafeteria, they end up stealing one of the notebooks of another girl. And in the notebook is basically her account of being with this 52-year-old man who is out of prison, who stalked her. And she's very young. Everyone is like, I believe she's 11 or maybe a little bit older than 11. It's like one of those schools where it's high school and middle school. And she ends up being kidnapped by this man. And he ends up manipulating her. And it's one of those terrifying events where it's like he claims that he works for the FBI and that he can have her arrested anytime. So she has to do what he says. And so the girl whose name is Sally, she's being held prisoner for 2 years. And it's about their relationship with each other. So it's very dark. And it's really sad.
That sounds
and it actually is based on a real life like story, but it's a novel, but it's inspired by real events.
Damn.
Yeah, it's tragic.
So yeah, Dana's still reading the dark stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But yeah, sounds like a interesting list there. I'll be looking forward to your thoughts on all those books on the next podcast. So yeah, that's pretty much it for episode 10 of BookCast. Thank you everyone for listening and continuing to listen. I know sometimes we take breaks, but as readers, sometimes there's too much pressure on us to keep reading and finishing and maintaining that level of interest in every book and stuff. And we get sidetracked from time to time. Sometimes other priorities take over and things of that nature. But we'll always bring the podcast back and eventually, and we're hoping to stick to that time frame of at least once a month. Last month got derailed just because I did go to New York and everything, and I was pretty busy. But yeah, we're back and we're gonna try and stick to the schedule now. So thanks everyone for listening, and make sure you're checking out redditorgroup.com. I've posted quite a few reviews of the books I've read, including the ones I talked about on this episode. And yeah, make sure you're following us on Twitter and Bookstagram and everything. And yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Any final words, Dana?
No, just keep reading and have a great day.
Okay, see ya.